Ladies and gentlemen, it's one of the most confusing experiences in love. Someone you care about deeply suddenly pulls away. You try to reach them. You wonder if they've changed, if they've stopped caring, or worse, if you've done something wrong. But here's the truth. When an avoidant ex pulls away, it's rarely about you. It's about what's happening inside them, the emotions they're terrified to admit, even to themselves. You see, avoidant individuals often struggle with vulnerability. They crave connection, but the moment closeness begins to feel real and intense, fear kicks in, and instead of saying, "I'm scared," they retreat. They pull away, they distance themselves, and they build walls, not because they don't care, but because they don't know how to stay without feeling suffocated. Behind this distance is a complicated mix of emotions. There's fear of losing control, fear of being hurt, fear of being too exposed. There's guilt. They may feel bad for pulling away, but don't know how to express it. There's longing. They miss the connection more than they'll ever admit. And there's confusion because their desire for closeness collides with their fear of it. It's important to understand this because it changes everything about how you respond. You don't chase, you don't beg, you don't try to force someone to stay when their inner world is asking them to flee. Instead, you create space, maintain your boundaries, and focus on your own life and growth. Ironically, it's in this very space when you're calm, confident, and fulfilled that they start to realize what they're missing. Remember, their pulling away is not a judgment of your worth. It's a reflection of their capacity to handle intimacy in that moment. And if you can hold that truth without taking it personally, you regain your power, you regain clarity, and you give yourself the chance to either rebuild a healthier connection or move forward with peace, knowing that love is never about chasing someone who cannot meet you halfway. So the next time they pull away, pause, reflect, and trust in the power of your own presence and value. Your life, your energy, and your emotional stability are yours to protect. And when you do, you attract not just attention, but genuine connection. When an avoidant ex pulls away, it can feel like the ground has shifted beneath your feet. You might replay every conversation, every text, every moment, searching for a mistake, wondering what went wrong. The truth is, most of the time, nothing went wrong with you. Their withdrawal is rarely a reflection of your value, your attractiveness, or the effort you've put into the relationship. Avoidant individuals often struggle with intimacy on a deep internal level. They want closeness and connection, but the intensity of those feelings triggers a fear response inside them. When they feel that fear rising, the instinct is not to communicate it. They pull away, they retreat, and they build emotional walls around themselves. It is a defense mechanism, a way to cope with emotions that feel overwhelming. This fear is not always obvious. It can manifest in subtle ways: delayed responses to messages, canceling plans, appearing distant during conversations, or even expressing frustration over minor issues. But beneath these behaviors is a powerful internal struggle. They are often torn between the desire to be close and the need to protect themselves from what they perceive as potential emotional pain. For them, pulling away feels safer than staying fully present, even if staying would bring them happiness. Understanding this is crucial because it reframes the way you see their behavior. Instead of taking their distance personally, you can begin to recognize it as a reflection of their internal fears and limitations, not a judgment of your worth. It's also important to understand that avoidant individuals often do not fully understand their own emotions. They may feel guilt for withdrawing, longing for connection, or anxiety over losing control, but these feelings are confusing and uncomfortable, so they hide them. This can make their actions seem inconsistent or contradictory. They may reach out one day and push away the next, but this push-pull dynamic is rarely about you being inadequate. It's about them navigating feelings they are not equipped to handle or articulate. The more you recognize that their pullback is about fear and self-protection, the more empowered you become. You stop blaming yourself for something that was never in your control and start seeing the situation for what it truly is, a reflection of their internal struggle. When you grasp this, you also realize that your response matters more than their actions. Instead of chasing, pleading, or trying to force intimacy, you have the option to respond with calm, understanding, and self-respect. You can create space that honors both your emotional boundaries and their process, knowing that pushing against their withdrawal often only reinforces their fear. By keeping this perspective, you protect your own emotional well-being while navigating the complex and often confusing dynamics of a relationship with an avoidant ex. The emotions of an avoidant ex are often much more complicated than they appear on the surface. When someone distances themselves, it's easy to interpret their behavior as coldness, indifference, or even rejection, but that is rarely the full story. Behind the withdrawal is often a whirlwind of emotions that they struggle to process or express. Fear is a major component, but it is not the only feeling at play. There is guilt, longing, confusion, and even sadness all tangled together in a way that makes their actions seem inconsistent or contradictory. They may reach out one day, showing interest or warmth, only to retreat the next, leaving you feeling confused and frustrated. Understanding that these hidden emotions exist helps you separate their behavior from your own sense of worth and prevents you from internalizing their withdrawal as a personal failure. Fear plays a central role in shaping how avoidant individuals behave. They fear losing control, fear being vulnerable, and fear being hurt in ways they cannot anticipate or manage. This fear can be triggered by moments of deep connection, by discussions about the future, or simply by the intensity of closeness. Even when they genuinely care for you, this fear can override their desire to maintain the relationship. Guilt often follows this fear. They may feel bad for pulling away, for hurting you unintentionally, or for failing to meet the expectations of intimacy. However, because guilt is uncomfortable and difficult for them to articulate, they suppress it. Instead of expressing remorse or having honest conversations about their feelings, they may create distance to cope with the discomfort. Alongside fear and guilt, there is often a deep sense of longing. Despite their withdrawal, they may miss the connection, crave your presence, or wish for things to feel simpler. This longing is frequently masked by their defensive behaviors, making it invisible to anyone who isn't paying close attention. Confusion also plays a significant role. Avoidant individuals are often caught in the tension, wanting closeness and fearing it at the same time. This internal conflict can lead to mixed signals, which are frustrating for both them and the people they care about. Their actions are less about manipulation or lack of care, and more about their inability to navigate these intense emotions in a healthy, transparent way. Recognizing the complexity of these hidden emotions gives you a powerful perspective. Instead of seeing them as inconsistent or uncaring, you start to understand that their behavior is a product of internal struggles that have little to do with your worth. This understanding allows you to respond more calmly and thoughtfully, maintaining your own boundaries and emotional stability. By acknowledging the fear, guilt, longing, and confusion that underlie their withdrawal, you gain insight into their behavior while protecting yourself from unnecessary self-blame. You learn to interpret their actions with empathy without losing sight of your own needs, creating a healthier approach to a relationship that can often feel unpredictable and emotionally draining. Creating space is one of the most powerful strategies when dealing with an avoidant ex. It might feel counterintuitive at first because when someone pulls away, our instinct is often to chase, to reach out, to convince them to stay, or to demand answers. But with avoidant individuals, chasing usually has the opposite effect. It triggers their fear, intensifies their need to retreat, and can deepen the emotional distance. Giving them space is not about playing games or withholding affection. It's about respecting their process and creating an environment where both parties can breathe and gain clarity. Space allows them to face their feelings without the added pressure of external expectations, and it also gives you the opportunity to regain emotional equilibrium and maintain your boundaries. The idea of space is fundamentally about self-respect. When you allow distance without anxiety or anger, you demonstrate that your sense of self is not dependent on their approval or presence. This sends a subtle but powerful signal that you are confident, secure, and capable of managing your own emotional life. Ironically, it is often this very confidence and emotional stability that draws them back. When they see that pulling away does not mean losing you completely, but that you remain grounded and whole, it softens their fear and opens the door for genuine connection. Space is not passive. It is a strategic form of emotional intelligence that protects your well-being while allowing the relationship to breathe. Space also provides clarity. When someone has stepped back, it gives both of you a chance to reflect on what you truly want and need from the relationship. For you, it is an opportunity to evaluate whether their patterns align with your values, emotional needs, and boundaries. For them, it is a chance to recognize the significance of the connection they have pulled away from without feeling suffocated. This breathing room prevents reactive decisions driven by fear or insecurity and allows interactions to become more intentional rather than impulsive. Importantly, creating space does not mean disengaging entirely or acting coldly. It is about setting boundaries that protect your emotional energy while refraining from chasing or pressuring them. This approach requires patience and self-discipline because the natural response to distance is often anxiety or a desire to fill the void with attention. However, resisting that urge cultivates resilience and demonstrates your emotional maturity. Avoidant individuals often respond more positively to calm, consistent, and respectful space than to any attempt to force closeness. By understanding that space is a tool, not a punishment, you reclaim control over your own emotional life. You stop being reactive to their withdrawal and start acting intentionally with clarity and self-respect. In the process, you set the stage for a healthier dynamic, whether that means rebuilding a connection on stronger foundations or gracefully accepting that some relationships cannot meet your needs. Space is not just about their growth. It is equally about your own empowerment and the ability to navigate love without losing yourself in the process. Emotional independence is one of the most crucial elements when navigating a relationship with an avoidant ex. When someone pulls away, it can be tempting to let your mood, your sense of worth, and even your daily routine revolve around their actions and decisions. This is a natural response because we all crave connection and reassurance, but it often leads to frustration, anxiety, and a loss of personal stability. Emotional independence means cultivating a life, mindset, and emotional state that are not dictated by their behavior. It is about creating a foundation within yourself that remains steady, whether they are near or distant, engaged or withdrawn. Building emotional independence starts with self-awareness. You need to recognize your triggers, moments when you feel the urge to chase, to overanalyze, or to seek validation from them. These triggers often stem from old patterns of attachment, where your emotional stability has been tied to someone else's availability. By identifying these moments, you can pause and consciously choose a response that protects your peace rather than reacting impulsively. Instead of sending that anxious message, overthinking every silence, or trying to fix the distance, emotional independence encourages you to turn inward and ask, what do I need right now to feel whole and secure? This shift in focus from them to yourself is transformative because it grounds your sense of self in your own choices and values. Another important aspect of emotional independence is cultivating confidence and fulfillment outside of the relationship. This means investing time in hobbies, friendships, work, and personal growth. When your life is rich and full, their actions no longer have the power to destabilize your world. You stop waiting for their attention or approval to feel worthy, and you begin to operate from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. Avoidant individuals are often drawn to people who exhibit this kind of stability because it does not trigger their fears of suffocation or neediness. When you are emotionally independent, you naturally set healthy boundaries, communicate clearly, and interact without desperation or clinginess. Emotional independence also allows you to maintain clarity. It gives you the ability to assess the relationship without distortion or panic. You can see their withdrawal for what it is, a reflection of their internal struggle, rather than as evidence of your inadequacy. This clarity helps you make decisions that honor your needs, whether that means patiently giving space, seeking mutual understanding, or ultimately letting go if the dynamic cannot meet your standards for connection. It protects you from being manipulated by inconsistency or drawn into unhealthy cycles of push and pull. Ultimately, emotional independence is a form of empowerment. It shifts your energy from trying to control or fix someone else's emotions to mastering your own. It ensures that no matter how your avoidant ex behaves, you remain grounded, confident, and aligned with your own values. This not only preserves your well-being, but also positions you as someone who can engage in relationships from a place of strength, presence, and authenticity, rather than fear or dependency. Emotional independence is not just a survival tactic. It is a pathway to thriving in love while maintaining your own integrity and self-respect. Understanding the hidden emotions of an avoidant ex allows you to respond with clarity, wisdom, and emotional intelligence, which can completely transform your experience of the relationship. Too often, people interpret distance, withdrawal, or inconsistent behavior as rejection or a reflection of their own inadequacy. But when you recognize that these actions are rooted in fear, confusion, guilt, and longing, you begin to see the bigger picture. Their behavior is not a verdict on your value, it is a window into their internal struggle. This perspective shifts your focus from trying to control or fix them to managing your own response in a way that preserves your dignity, boundaries, and emotional well-being. When you understand the emotions driving their actions, you stop taking things personally. You realize that when they pull away, it is not a statement about your worth, but a reflection of their capacity to handle intimacy in that moment. This awareness allows you to remain calm instead of reacting impulsively out of fear or hurt. You can approach the situation with empathy without sacrificing your own needs, which is essential because relationships with avoidant individuals are often emotionally charged and unpredictable. Responding with awareness rather than instinctive reaction prevents you from getting caught in cycles of chase, guilt, or overcompensation, and instead positions you to make choices that are grounded and intentional. Clarity also allows you to evaluate the relationship honestly. By recognizing their hidden emotions, you can ask yourself critical questions. Are their patterns compatible with my needs? Do I feel secure, respected, and valued? Am I engaging in a dynamic that supports growth or one that perpetuates stress and uncertainty? Understanding the emotional forces behind their behavior provides the insight needed to make decisions with confidence. Whether that means giving them space to work through their fears, fostering healthier communication, or ultimately letting go when the connection cannot meet your emotional requirements. This clarity is a gift because it replaces confusion, anxiety, and self-doubt with informed choice and personal power. Responding wisely also involves balance. It's not about excusing unhealthy behavior or tolerating inconsistency indefinitely. It's about engaging from a place of grounded self-respect. When you comprehend what drives their actions, you can establish boundaries that protect your energy while remaining compassionate. This approach reduces friction and tension and creates the possibility of authentic connection if the other person is capable of meeting you halfway. It also prevents resentment from building up because you are acting consciously rather than reacting to fear or desperation. Ultimately, understanding hidden emotions transforms your experience. It allows you to navigate a complex, often confusing relationship with insight, patience, and confidence. You no longer feel powerless or subject to someone else's unpredictable behavior. Instead, you operate from a place of knowledge, self-respect, and clarity, ensuring that every interaction is aligned with your values and emotional well-being. By recognizing what your avoidant ex is feeling but cannot express, you gain the power to respond wisely, maintain your boundaries, and approach the relationship or its ending with dignity, presence, and intentionality. In closing, navigating the pull of an avoidant ex is never about chasing or changing them. It's about understanding the fears and hidden emotions that drive their behavior, protecting your own emotional well-being, and responding with clarity, patience, and self-respect. By embracing your own value, creating space, and maintaining emotional independence, you not only empower yourself, but also open the door to healthier, more conscious connections. Thank you all for taking the time to reflect on these dynamics with me today, and for committing to approaching love with both wisdom and courage.